Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and this is the 31st of March. We're ready for April. And I think it's a good thing to think of that April is going to be a pretty rough month for a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of hardship, there's going to be a lot of difficulty. But the most important thing is that we have to keep our heads up, we got to keep our humor, we got to keep our sanity. And for people that are locked together in an apartment, just try to tolerate each other as best you can. It's not easy. I mean, even with the people that are the dearest people in love, if you're stuck together 24/7 without a break, it can be trying at times. But we're going to persevere. That's the most important thing to think of here. You know, we are getting a taste of history here. I'm trying to put a slight positive spin on all this because I can tell you about what's going on and how the United States is just ramping up to start. April is going to be our month. But we're experiencing history. We have been very fortunate in our existence. We have had vaccines for so many different illnesses. We have had so many illnesses basically eradicated. But if you live 500 years ago, what we are experiencing right now was standard operating procedure. Because there are constant pandemics of all different diseases. And the humanity of that time had little defense. We didn't have any medications. We didn't have many drugs. We didn't have anything in the way of antibiotics. Nobody knew what that was. You have to remember, and a lot of people don't realize this, that antibiotics, penicillin, and things like that are a 20th century development. And it wasn't until the 1930s that they became available for people. 1930s. Think about that. That is within human memory. So if you go back 500 years ago, you got sick, well, that was a good chance you were going to die. And a lot of people didn't live as long. And if you did live long, you're a very lucky individual, and there were so many childhood diseases. The things we think of as commonplace were deadly. The common cold was deadly. So what we're experiencing now is something that we haven't dealt with before. And so we are experiencing what people experienced all the time. I consider ourselves, if you think about it, I consider us very lucky. We haven't had to deal with this, and let's hope that we don't have to deal with something like this for a while. But who knows? I mean, in this age in which the world has become so small, I'm thinking of the words of John F. Kennedy, that we all inhabit this small planet, and that we all breathe the same air, and that we all look for the welfare of our children. And we're looking at a world that is going through a massive crisis. And we will persevere, as they did 500 years ago. They went through their trials, their tribulations, and they lost many members of their families. But then when they would fight on, they would go on. They would explore, they would discover, go through a renaissance, and then go through an enlightenment, and change the very nature of man and his understandings of life, his body, and of the world around him. These are trying times, But these are times that teach us, and we're learning from this. We're learning that, in a sense, this is our own personal Titanic. You see, in the late 19th century, technology had taken off and everything was perfect. And we had defeated nature. And then came the Titanic. And nature gave us a good one. We're dealing with the same thing now. We thought we were above a lot of this. But then we discover that we can't totally control nature. And nature always can throw a curveball every now and then at us, and that's exactly what we're dealing with here. And will there be more pandemics? Of course there will. Throughout the history of man, however long man inherits this earth, we will have pandemics. We will have crises. And we will surmount them, hopefully. It's part of the story of the history of man, the history of life. And we are just experiencing a new chapter in that history. And there are so many chapters to follow. So keep your chin up. Understand that we will get through this. Understand that the world will go on. Understand that we will go back and create and recreate and advance our society. But right now, we tripped. We skinned our knee. Gotta let it heal a little bit. And then we will take off again and do wonderful and great things. Don't let yourself be discouraged. There's too much wonderful things coming up in your life. There's so many great and wonderful things that you will see in the future. Especially young people. Just think about this. Think about the world will be like in 50 years. Think of what you will discover, what you will see. So I know people are discouraged. I know a lot of young people are very depressed about this. But don't worry. We'll go on. And we'll be fine.